It is the first day of Borrowathon. It's already 6 p.m. though, and I have started 2 of my books for this readathon. I started the first book I started with was Dear Allie, How Do You Write a Book? I am currently on page 21. So far I'm really enjoying this one. And then I also started Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, and on that one I'm on page 12. This first book, Dear Allie, I'm reading to fulfill the challenge of the bucket list item, which is technically not really a bucket list item because I don't have a bucket list, but it's something I've always wanted to do, is to write a book, and this is a book on writing. And then Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, I am using to fulfill 2 challenges, I think. At this point, my plan is to read this one, obviously, for the challenge, reading a book that features a library. But also, I think this may be the book that I try to read completely outside of my home. So I started reading this when I left the house today, which is why I've only read a tiny bit of it. And that's basically it. As I mentioned in my TBR video, I am going to be very busy during the week, this week of this readathon, so I don't know how much I'm going to read or vlog, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so it's the day after Borrowathon ended, actually, and I'm finally updating this vlog. I'm sorry that this vlog has mostly just been a montage. I've been crazy busy this week. Lots of stuff has been happening and I just haven't been able to get in front of the camera. So this is the best I could do. Anyway, here's what I read. First up is Dear Allie, How Do You Write a Book by Allie Carter. I was really excited to read this one and I did really enjoy it. However, it did take me most of the week to read it. I think it's because this is a non-fiction book and it just doesn't have the same momentum that being in a story does, so it took me a while to get through it. And I was constantly thinking about how to apply the advice in here to my own writing goals and plans, and it's just not a book that I could or wanted to rush through. And I did flag a couple of things in here that I wanted to mention. And I don't think I need to do a spoiler warning because it's nonfiction. So here is what I found interesting. On page 82, and this is the hardcover version, if you have a hard one, on page 82 at the bottom, I so totally thought for a second that she was going to tell us Hale's name, and she didn't. And I also was a little bit afraid that she was going to say that she doesn't even, like, know what it is, like he doesn't really have a name, but he does. She knows what it is. She just won't tell us, which I'm glad that she knows what it is, because it makes it more real, even though he's a fictional character. It would have just been such a bummer if she was like, I don't even know what it is. But yeah, she knows what it is, she just won't tell us. Which you only understand if you've read High Society. And if you haven't read High Society, I highly recommend that you do. It is one of my favorite series. And then you'll know who Hale is and why we don't know his first name. On page 157 and 158, Allie Carter talks about something she did in her 5th Gallagher Girls novel, Out of Sight, Out of Time. And she doesn't mention it specifically, but she says she does something that she never dreamed her character would do, and she has her character do it. And that it ended up being most of her readers' favorite scene in the entire series. And I just marked that because Out of Sight, Out of Time is my favorite book of the entire series. So I thought that was really cool. Oh, and then throughout this book, there are contributions from other, like, amazing young adult authors. And one contribution from David Leviathan I marked or flagged down so that I could come back to it. And that was him talking about writing Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist with Rachel Cohen, I think is her name. I read Nick and Nora's like a while back when I read it and I watched the movie before I started BookTube, so I haven't talked about it on BookTube. But I did like that book, and it's interesting the way that they wrote it, and that's why I marked it down, because they wrote the book by each writing a chapter and then sending that chapter back and forth. So I think that's a cool way to collaborate on a book, because I've always been skeptical about if I could collaborate on a book, because I feel like I would be too territorial of all my stuff in writing to share with somebody else. Like, to have somebody else have control over some of that stuff, I think would be hard for me. But I think that's a very interesting way to do it. And then the last thing I flagged was on page 204. But it actually is something that Allie talks about throughout the book, and that is entering writing contests. Next, on what I'm pretty sure was the second day of the readathon, I stayed true to my brand and completely diverged from my TBR. I picked up Nancy Drew and the Palace of Wisdom, which was not on my TBR, but it was a collection of comics, 5 I believe, that I rented from Hoopla, and I read it all in one day, and I loved it so much. I loved the plot, I loved the characters, I loved the art style, which can sometimes be a tricky point for me in comics, but I loved everything about this comic. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I hope there will be more comics in the series. I also think that the second day of the readathon is when I started reading Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. This is the book that I was using for the challenge of reading a book completely outside of your home, because I believe it is the shortest, it's the middle grade book, so I thought it would be the easiest to read. And also because my plan originally was to read in the library when I wasn't reading at home, and this is the library book about the library, and I just thought that would be fun. But it turns out I did not end up having time to read in the library, so I basically read this when I was in the car going to and from places, and that is why I didn't finish it. I got about halfway through. I did manage to make it to the library once during the readathon. However, this was just to quickly run in and pick up some books that I had on hold and run back out, so I didn't have time to read there. However, if you managed to catch a peek of the books that I did pick up at the library during my vlog, you may have gotten a sneak peek at some of the books I'm taking on vacation and may also be on my 24-hour readathon TBR. Stay tuned for that. It's coming up. As the readathon was coming to an end, I realized that I may not finish Mr. Lemoncello's Library, and I started to panic just a little bit, and I thought that maybe I could read a book to complete the library challenge if I couldn't complete the challenge of reading something completely outside of your home. So I picked up the Forgotten book because it does feature a library, so I thought I could complete the library challenge with this one. However, I only read like 8 pages of this before I decided to switch back to what was on my actual TBR, and that was Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian. I started listening to this one as an audiobook on the last day of the readathon, which I still thought was plausible because the audiobook is like 10 hours long, and I listen to audiobooks usually at 2 times speed, so that would have been 5 hours out of my day. However, it didn't happen, and once I had time to actually sit down and read the book, physically I did that as well, and I got halfway through this one too. And I tallied it all up, and I read a total of 700... Whoa, that's weird. Okay. So I tallied it all up, and apparently I read a total of 789 pages. I just realized how weird that is. It's 789. Maybe that's incorrect, but that's what I added together. And I completed 3 of the challenges, I think, which is half of them. I'm counting the Nancy Drew comic as both a non-traditional format for that challenge and as a book I was in the mood to read, because I was so in the mood to read it that I left my TBR. So that counts for both those challenges. So I'm saying that I completed 3 of the challenges, and that's half of them, and that's good enough for me. I also got to participate in some Twitter sprints, which I really enjoyed, and I loved getting to see what everybody else was reading on Twitter. And that was my Borrowathon experience. I am planning to finish the books that I started, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, stay tuned. I'm also going to do a separate wrap-up video for what I did end up reading during the readathon, so if you want to hear like more of my in-depth thoughts, stay tuned for that video, which is coming out later this week. Let me know in the comments if you participated in this readathon and what you read if you did. You can also let me know what you thought of any of the books I mentioned, and also what readathon you're excited to participate in next. I just recently heard that the upcoming biannual Bibliothon round is going to be the last round, so I'm definitely going to try to participate in that. Also, a little shameless self-promo. I'm very excited for my 24-hour readathon that's coming up on June 6th. If you liked this vlog, please give it a like. I have new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and the one coming up on this Friday is the last one of my month of library-themed videos, so subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye. Not bad. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Probably page 12, just starting chapter 3. Oh, that's chapter 6. Why did I do that? I'm so excited to host a 24-hour readathon June 6th. Now you can see my library themed shirt. And now I need to edit this whole vlog and have it up ready for tomorrow. I've been posting my videos at 2 p.m. my time, so I have some of the morning to also edit, but I haven't started editing this at all, and I was supposed to already. And I also want to get my April wrap-up up this week, because we're almost in June. So we'll see. I need to get this up though. I really, really want to make it up on Tuesday. I gotta film another video. Bye!